Welcome to How One Word is Making Your Team Lose Out on Hiring the Best Engineers. I'll be watching the chat window on the side, so if you have questions, feel free to type them in as we go. But otherwise, I'm just going to steam ahead with it. So, I've got something I want to show you guys first, which is this. I'm going to have to now carefully switch. I apologize. I've got problems with Keynote trying to grab the thing each time I click on it. And yes, right, here we go again. So share that screen. Brilliant. So, I need this to stop. So, what I've got here is a small test I want you to do. You may already have seen this. What we're going to have here is two teams of basketball players. We've got a white team and a black team. And your challenge is to count the number of times that the white team passes the basketball and try not to be distracted by the black team. So this will hopefully broadcast well enough. And the video quality is terrible, unfortunately. This is not coming through. So we are probably going to have to skip this, and I'll just have to hand you the link afterwards to look at. Yep. Okay, we're skipping that. So back to the slideshow. Just waiting for it to come up. Right, so unfortunately, what you couldn't see because of the inability of me to be able to stream video in and out at the same time is we had a whole bunch of passes between the two teams, and halfway through, a moonwalking bear appeared on the screen. And the interesting thing about this is firstly that almost nobody notices the moonwalking bear until it's pointed out to them. The really interesting thing is, even if I know the moonwalking bear is going to be there, and even though I've told you, if you now go back and watch that video, and I'll include a link to it at the end, it's quite easy to miss it. And what the psychology of this has been shown is that if you look at something with no preconceptions, then you are open to discovering and noticing multiple things about it. You can track a lot of information, you can detect things, you can notice things. But as soon as someone asks you to specifically look for one thing, your ability to notice the unexpected is greatly reduced and largely goes out the window. So how is this relevant to hiring? Waiting for my screens to sync. So in hiring, we normally start every interview process with a bunch of things we're looking for. And it applies to each stage, whether we're doing the filtering, whether we're looking for new candidates, whether we're interviewing them, and even sometimes in the negotiation itself. What we end up doing is we tend to look for no. We're looking for reasons to reject each candidate. Now, there are good reasons for that. The first one is that it's very difficult to prove a positive. So if I can show someone some Python code, something very simple, and ask them to complete a for loop, it's very easy for me to demonstrate that they can't program Python. It's very easy to prove the negative. It's difficult for me to prove the positive because, okay, they get the for loop right. All I know now is they know the for loop. I don't know whether they know the rest of the language. But as soon as I hit a negative, I know that I've hit a reason this person probably can't do what they say they can. Second big reason is most of us have had experience of a bad hire. This is an employee who can't do the job, who's toxic, who ruins the work of those around them, ruins our own work, or brings down the team. And we speak a lot in the industry about engineers who are 2x or 5x engineers, or even greater multiple. So these people who, in the same job as someone theoretically equivalently skilled and experienced, are only able to perform, are able to perform at a multiplier and produce twice the output or 3 times the output or whatever. In practice, those kinds of multipliers are rare as they go up the spectrum. But what's unfortunately very common is the bad hire, the person who is minus 1x or minus 2x. And when we've experienced those, they are much worse for us, because a hire who is better than expected is someone who is going to help us achieve our goals faster. But we budgeted and we did the project management for what we had in terms of resources. And if we get there faster, great. That's good, but it doesn't really affect everything else that's going on. However, when we miss our goals as a team because someone has made it take longer than it should have, then there's lots of negative consequences on the team and the company and the individuals. And so the bad hire becomes the thing that everyone is much more afraid of than the amount that they're keen to get the good hire. So it's a self-protective thing. And the final sort of big recurring reason why we tend to look for no is that engineers are problem solvers. I think most of the people, I'm assuming most of the people here are engineers or possibly former engineers, but we're trained to look for problems. We're trained to see them preemptively. We're trained to then look for potential solutions. And if there aren't solutions, at least to flag them as problems. And then whoever the decision maker is can actually act upon those. And in this case, when we're looking at hiring, frequently there'll be engineers looking for problems with the candidate and then flagging them up to the hiring manager, who then is the one expected to decide what to do about that. But there's a big assumption here, which is the nature of the problems you're solving for. And the tendency, if you don't fight it, is that the problem you're looking out for is the personal problem. How is this person going to affect me, this new hire? And so this is where the bad hires situation becomes dominant. But the real problem in terms of the hiring process, the real reason we're hiring, what we're hiring for, is more about the team and the project management and the manager and what they've committed to, or if you're in a something more like Scrum or Agile, then what the team as a whole is committed to. And so your problem really is more about your under-resourcing and that you can't achieve as a team what you hope to achieve. And so you need extra skills or manpower. And to solve that, I'm going to start going through these a bit quicker because I've dropped behind a bit on the first few slides and my tech glitches. So how we solve that, we're going to grow the team. We're going to add more people to it. We're going to, as the team grows, we'll be expected to expand the remit of the team and what the team has promised and what the team can actually deliver on, because we've got more headcount. By bringing in extra people, we're expecting to increase the diversity. We want extra skills that we didn't have. So normally the diversity is going to increase. But also we expect to have an extra pair of hands. We expect to be able to do more. And as a result, we expect that individuals who are doing things might now hand those over to some of the incoming people. So we start to share the workloads and start to hand off some things we were doing. So overall, the impact, the problem, and the solution you're looking for at the hiring into the team level is all about creating change. You're going to change the makeup of the team. You're going to change what existing team members are doing. And you're going to change what the team is capable of. So we don't really want to be asking an individual, what have you done? What did you do? Are you good or bad at something? We really want to be asking questions along the lines of, if you come here, if you join us, what will you do? How will you change? What you will change into? And how you're going to change us? How you're going to change the rest of the team? What impact you're going to have on our makeup? So ultimately, what we're really ideally looking for is reasons to say yes to a candidate. We're looking to the future that we can achieve with them. So let's go into some concrete examples. So the meat of this. Classic question. Tell me about a time when, for instance, your manager shouted at you, what did you do? Or for instance, One of your colleagues seems to be underperforming. How did you deal with that? These questions, whilst they seem very good, are also really, tell me about a time you proved you're the perfect person for this job, which is a fancy way of saying, I don't really want to do my job as an interviewer. I want to go home early and relax. They're not very effective. Unfortunately, they're very learnable. They're extremely gameable. We'll come back to that. So look at a different question. What are your career goals? What do you hope to achieve? Now, this question can also be a bad one because, unfortunately, when we're hiring for an engineer, we're not really hiring someone to be an expert in their future career. We're hiring them to be good at engineering. And so, as a general statement, engineers haven't specifically gone around planning their career goals. Now, many have, but many haven't. And this question disproportionately starts to, again, filter for people who've gone and Googled what's the best answer to what are your career goals. So a different style of question. Say we're hiring a JS or full stack developer, for instance. Tell me about node.js. So this is a completely open-ended question. It's going to be hard to have a wrong answer. In some ways, it's hard to have a right answer, but this is giving the candidate an opportunity to start to reveal stuff about themselves and their background and their interests. And what's going to happen here is they may not say anything of interest. That's neither a yes or a no, but they might say something exciting. They might say something that touches on key things that you're looking for in your team and you're hiring. Or, sorry, I jumped to. A classic one that I've used quite a lot is doing offsite code testing. Instead of doing pre-interview tests, get people to bring code to the interview, whether that's online or in person, and explain your code to me. Now, again, you might not get any particular signal from this, but what you're hoping for is that someone will start to show you some passion, some interest. You expect that they might say, I apologize that there's no tests in this. You can get into a conversation about why there are no tests, whether it was suitable to have no tests, etc. Or they might reveal that they think TDD is a complete waste of time. Again, you're not looking for a specific no, because it'd be unfair with an open question like that to be asking, to using this as a filter to reject people, unless they say something extremely bad. What you're really looking for is a reason to say yes to them. And ultimately, sorry, I'm going to skip ahead again. What you're generally looking for is to avoid STAR questions. This is STAR. I can give a link to this after the session if anyone hasn't heard of them. These are questions, situation, what's it? Situation, I've forgotten what the T and the A stand for. T and then action and response. So it's where you say, this is what happened. This is what I decided to do about it. This is what the outcome was. And this is the classic way you're coached to answer a lot of questions and give a seemingly perfect answer. What we're really looking for is more passion questions. We're looking for things that get someone to start talking about what really matters to them, what they're looking for. Because this is where we start to be able to predict much better what their forwards-looking behavior is going to be and how they might change and adapt and fit into our team. Or the other big one you're looking for is when someone starts teaching you something. So if you go into an interview and you come out of it having learned something about a technology, especially a technology you're already using, that's a classic giant yes question. So generally, you're looking for passions, wish lists, aspirations. They don't all have to be positive. You can be looking for regrets as well. Regrets are an example of where they've done something in the past, but you're not focusing on the thing that went wrong. You're focusing on what they would wish they'd done instead. What you're trying to avoid are the no items. So traps, trick questions, focus on mistakes, focus on the outcome of previous work. So how do we apply this to hiring? There's 6 major stages to hiring. I'm going to have to run through this very quickly because time is tight. I apologize for this. So sourcing, filtering, screening, interviewing, etc. I'm going to touch briefly on sourcing because some of that applies to the whole stack. In sourcing, in particular, This is where you're getting your candidates into your funnel. But the big one at the bottom there, job descriptions. This applies to everything in the whole of the interview cycle. So classic job description includes a requirements section. Example here, React Native, Maven, GitHub, Jira, jQuery, proven track record in the successful delivery, fluent in C#, Java, HTML, etc., etc. Experience in Go, relational databases, Postgres, MySQL. Also experience with no SQL databases, Mongo, Cassandra, Redis, etc. So these are really all opportunities to say no. The reason they're in a job description is largely to get people to self-select, because we don't want them to come and apply to the job if they can't do this. They're fundamentally a no. For a contrasting example, fully remote and requires you to lead from the front, managing a small team wherever you want in the world, as long as the job gets done. Now, this isn't measurable. This is not a rejectable, I can say you can't do this. This is an aspirational thing I'm looking for in the candidate. Or working closely with our CTO, a unique opportunity to, and the key bit is at the end here, learn and grow across software. So again, it's the forward-looking, open-ended, I'm looking for a reason for you as an applicant, before we've even spoken, but to self-identify that this is something you want to grow into, and you're going to come to me pre-primed to start giving me excuses to say yes as a hire. I'm going to skip through the others. So these are all more just general. I was going to go to more detailed examples of these if we had time. It might come back at the end. Interviewing, this all applies to interviewing, the interview phase itself. So the interview is really an amalgamation of the previous steps. The previous steps are just optimizations. So the same kind of concepts apply around whether you're doing yes questions or whether you're doing no questions. Just waiting for the slides to update. Yeah. So, however, this does come with problems. It's not a free ride. So the most obvious problem you have with this is that it's gameable to some extent, because you're not working with clear measurables. When you're looking for yes, you can't really measure the opportunity. You can guess at it. You can have gut feel. Now, if your way of measuring it is you're looking for some of the things I said earlier in the talk, so especially passion and the fact they managed to teach something, then that's actually quite hard to fake. There is a possibility, though, that you might allow someone charismatic who has no idea what they're doing to get through. It's also unverifiable. You can't really measure independently whether this person is going to do that. And ultimately, it's not effective at reducing candidate numbers. So if you have a situation where you have a very large number of candidates, this makes it harder to filter them down. Ultimately, though, I think for me the key thing is: do you want to be surrounded by colleagues? And when you sit there, you look around, and these are the people you didn't say no to, or would you prefer to be surrounded by the ones that you said yes to? That's going to be the end of my talk. 20 minutes has gone much faster than I thought it would. And just to say what I'm doing at the moment, so I've been an engineer for almost 20 years and a hiring manager, and I was never a recruiter, but I had to learn a lot of recruiting techniques to be able to get the teams I wanted to build the stuff we wanted to build. And so I decided I would write a book, which is just all the things I've learned along the way and the techniques and tactics I have liberally plagiarized off people much smarter than me, recruiting experts, with the goal being that everyone else doesn't have to do the trial and error approach to this, but can just steal the best bits. So there's a website, hirefirst100.com. There isn't a book yet. It's still in progress, but you can sign up there if you're interested, learn more about the book, and even put your own requests in and what stuff you want covered on it. Right. So, and I think that's time. And it's a very strange experience not having an audience in front of you. until they kick us off, if you have any questions, I'm quite happy to respond to them. Thank you for all the thanks. It's appreciated, especially when I can't actually see or hear anyone, and I am just talking to an empty screen. Not even talking to a Zoom call, but an empty screen. No questions? No one wants to disagree? Oh, very exciting one there from Libby. I'm just going to very briefly point to Joe Edwards' question there, a point there about goes against the grain of our set HR questions. Yes, it does. One of the big topics I've been working on for the book is why HR tries to take a lot of hiring in the wrong direction. It's TLDR, it's not their fault. It's to do with the things that they are being asked to do and the context they're working in. But it's very easy for us on the development side to end up blaming them for some of the things that they're kind of forced into. And to go on to Libby's question, do you have any thoughts on hiring autistic people who may be competent but rubbish in the interview? So in general, I would like to say that this approach of looking for yes should favour those people. In general, looking for yes tends to favour the more diverse candidates. Obviously, it depends how you do it. It depends how you run your interviews. It depends how much you do to counteract your biases and your prejudices. But when you're looking for no, you tend to focus more on the well-trained, well-groomed candidates, the ones who know all the right things to say, and most importantly, never put their foot in their mouth. When you focus on yes, you tend to be more forgiving. You tend to be less focused on what did they actually say versus what do I think they meant? What was behind that? What was underneath it? So autistic candidates is a gigantic spectrum. I used to be and the spectrum is extremely broad for this one. But in general, I would expect the yes approach to be helpful for them. Although I don't have any statistics on that. If someone does, I would love to see them.